Alright, in the next 5 minutes, I will give you 4 insights that you need to know to quickly understand where to capture information and where to retrieve it later on without having the friction to think too long. That's something that holds up so many busy professionals out there. First, to think about where should I place this information, and then getting the anxiety not to know where to retrieve it later. And something that many don't realize is it comes down to an understanding about the information. Not all the information is the same. We have to realize there are different types of information, and therefore we need to have different places where to store and to retrieve it. It's a lot simpler than you might think, so let's dive into the whiteboard to explain this better. This is it. Shallow thinking, deep thinking, outer world, inner world. That's what we will discuss today. And after understanding the differences here, you will have a whole different perspective on how you take notes. Promise about that. The thing is, we can maybe work with shallow thinking and deep thinking and understand more or less what this is all about, right? But what is outer world and inner world? Let's go through this step by step. Shallow thinking, think of meeting notes. You're sitting in a meeting, you quickly take notes about something somebody said and you jot these things down. You don't know yet what you will do with this later on. Deep thinking is where you really sit there and try to solve a problem, a complex problem. Something I usually use whiteboards for, as I cannot do this on a text formatter. So I usually use something like Miro or Heptabase in order to make the problem solving. I mean, exactly what I do now here is the problem of note taking. I show you right now here on the whiteboard too. So once we realize, okay, there are things that I need to quickly jot down and collect information I don't know what to use yet, in ideas and things like that, and deep thinking, we realize we might need different tools in order to complete them in the best way possible. Alright, here we are in the myICOR app where our members lay out their tool stacks, and here's my own tool stack laid out there. And you see in the PKM area, I laid out Heptabase and Reader. So if I focus just on the personal area, these are the 2 tools that I currently use for PKM, okay? Personal knowledge management. Heptabase, if we open it up, you see now here, I'm using it for deep thinking and the inner world, but I'm also using it for shallow thinking, but not for the outer world. So when I open up Reader, you see I'm using it for quick capture, shallow thinking and outer world. So what is the difference of inner world and outer world? The inner world is everything that comes from within ourselves. Ideas that come up, conclusions, insights, things like that, that I want to jot down and not to forget in the future. Outer world is something that we are getting bombarded every day. When you go to social media, YouTube, reading articles on Medium, and you want to save this stuff and want to keep in mind these things, this is the outer world. It doesn't come from you. It sparks by discovering something in the outer world. So realizing this again gives you another perspective on this is different information and I might need different tools to store them. So now getting back to the overview here, it makes more sense. Heptabase I use solely for my inner world, everything that I come up with, the problem solving and all these things, whereas the Reader Read Later app ensures that I'm not cluttering up my deep thinking system with redundant stuff from the outer world. I just want to save it. I want to please my FOMO, my fear of missing out, that I stored it somewhere and then call it a day, but still having a database later on where I can retrieve information. So that's then the shallow thinking. When I go there, maybe I do some research about a specific topic, and that's where I then go into Reader and search for the information there. Heptabase, I have shallow thinking and quick capture there. I'm not so happy because Heptabase is a lot slower and more friction prone when it comes to these processes. So I used, for example, for this Tana before Heptabase. So I used 2 different tools in order to do this. So Tana I used for shallow thinking and quick capture, whereas Heptabase I only used for deep thinking. Now I forced myself to just use Heptabase also for the shallow thinking, taking notes during the meeting and things like that, to keep everything in one tool. It really depends on the volume of notes that you take until you reach a point where you think, it's just noise now in my system and I should switch tools. And you might need an additional tool to decouple this from each other. But in my case, it is enough to have these 2 tools to have a perfectly running system and know where to place it and where to retrieve it later on. So there you have it. The more you internalize, there are different information types and that you use specific tools for these specific information types, the faster you will get in capturing information and retrieving it later on, because to you it becomes crystal clear where to store it and where to retrieve it later on. And if you keep switching tools because you're not satisfied with the personal knowledge management tool that you use right now, or the note-taking app, that might be the reason. You might have started using something like Obsidian or anything like that, a heavy PKM system for deep thinking, and then you think, but for shallow thinking, I want to look, or for the outer world, I want to use something else. So you switch to a tool that seems like it fits better, but the switching is not correct, because now you're focusing too much on this, and this tool will lack than in deep thinking capabilities. So this makes it so much easier to understand the flow of information. Now again, bringing in the tools, now I can perfectly say, okay, I'm using Reader for the outer world and for shallow thinking, and I'm using Heptabase for my inner world and for deep thinking. But as I just showed you in my tool stack, it's not everything black and white. Okay, so I'm also using Heptabase for shallow thinking, but not for the outer world. And that's important now to differentiate what type of shallow thinking, meeting notes, ideas. Whereas here for shallow thinking, it's just inspirations. Others are using then, for example, myMind for inspirations from images and things like that. All this, you will be perfectly able to understand what you're using these tools for. And that's why our ICOR framework here helps our members to understand this much better and stay in control of their flow of information. The same applies to action. There's also differences in shallow work and deep work. And if you're interested to learn more about this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we will talk about this in the future here. Or if you really want to dive deep, then join us in our membership, where we teach the ICOR methodology. So you see here, ICOR goes through all the parts of the productivity system: PKM, PPM, which is task management, business project management, and business knowledge management. And here you go, in the PKM area, there is where we cover in the course how to build a shallow thinking system and a deep thinking system, and how you control everything with the capturing beast. And be sure, I will talk on the channel too about the My Life concept that keeps everything in control and allows you to easily organize the things inside your PKM system. So what do you think about these insights? Let me know in the comments below. Do you already apply things like shallow thinking and deep thinking? Have you been aware about outer and inner world? And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you up in the next one.